All right, good evening, everybody. Hope everyone's off to a good day so far. We'll call the meeting to order. Our first item of business is our approval of the minutes from September 26th. Did everybody get a chance to look at them? Okay. Joe, did you get a chance to look at them?
I did, and I had a couple of comments, clarifications.
Okay, should we approve them first, then have the comments?
No, he has, because he's changing them.
Oh, he's changing. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, me? Okay, I'll switch over to page 2, number 8, Collier's update. John, you mentioned that you provided the committee with an updated milestone schedule. Can you include a versioned copy of the milestone schedule so we can put it in the minutes, so that the milestone schedule is actually included in the so we capture the milestone schedule at the time of the meeting.
Yes.
Okay, and if you could provide that to Jeannie, she'll do her magic. In number 9, at the very bottom, we talked about having someone do the operational costs of the town of a geothermal system. We agreed to do that, but I don't know if we actually put anybody in charge of that. Who would be responsible for that? Did you lose me?
Well, I thought I could have.
I was listening.
Oh, I thought the conversation might have been that you were gonna check and see if you knew somebody that could do that for us.
The life cycle cost analysis
Yeah,
of multiple systems.
yeah. Was that what you remember, Joe?
I sort of remember, that, and then I also remember possibly when we meet with Eversource, if that's something they provide. But I don't remember if there was any final conclusion on that. I don't remember a final conclusion on that.
I definitely
I checked my notes. It's not in my personal notes either.
no.
I know we had a conversation about you can do a life cycle cost analysis. But we didn't, there was no directive provided. But I can get a consultant to give us a proposal to do life cycle cost evaluation of different systems. It's not cheap. I can get those numbers, yeah.
Since we actually didn't, can we just table any action till we'll put it on a future meeting, the agenda for a future meeting? If no one believes we have any assigned way forward, if we could just John, if Colliers can look at that as put it on well, actually we should put it on a future agenda and rather than have Tom do it because he's doing something else. If Colliers could take a look at that, how we get that done.
Okay.
Okay. The last thing I had was also in number 8, the very last sentence. We went through the value engineering recommendations. And at the bottom, it says the committee will formally vote on these items at the next meeting. I didn't catch that. It's not, I don't think anybody put it on the agenda. Is that what we agreed to do, or did we agree that the sort of the list we put together was sufficient for Tom to move forward in design development?
No, we needed to vote.
Well, I thought we originally said we were gonna wait till this meeting, but we ended up powering through it in the last meeting.
Voted at the last.
I don't think we voted at the last meeting.
I did not vote. I don't believe we voted.
We voted last
There's
week.
no
We can
vote.
formally vote. One
So
of
we
the
just
additions
penciled
that
through it
hasn't
then.
been even looked at, that I know we can't afford right now, but I'd like to get a general cost estimate would be the theater component potential for in the gym area. Even if it's a ballpark of between X 100,000 and this, you know what I mean? Not, and I don't need a lot of detail, just a general ballpark. We're gonna try to ask the public to, you know, either privately or publicly fund that. That's one of the things that isn't on the list. It's dropped off completely.
But my notes from the VE list was that we made our decisions about what to include, what to exclude, what should be an ad alternate. But that we did not vote. The plan was that we would vote tonight to move forward with the real list.
There was no formal
Okay.
vote last time.
Okay.
So I think it needs to, I believe it needs to have a formal vote.
Not on the agenda for today.
We can
Do we
open up,
want- Pardon?
we can open up the agenda though. We can vote to open the agenda, put it on the agenda, and then do the vote, because I think we're all in agreement as to what the list is.
Yeah, because the list essentially needed to be determined so Tom could proceed.
We've designed those, yeah.
Right.
Do we need a copy of that list though? Because I don't have one. Did we discuss it at all?
We discussed it. in
No, I know we
depth
did,
last
but
time.
I'm saying as long as everyone's good with it today.
Copy is in the minutes of the last meeting. That's what I was working off of,
Oh.
Right.
Okay,
but I don't, again, we don't know that the minutes exactly reflected what we had agreed, what we had spoken about. So if we do have a vote, we'd have to go through them and be sure that the minutes correctly reflect what we've agreed to.
okay. All right, so I guess we can add an agenda item to the end. right, Jim?
Yes.
Okay, what else you got, Joe?
That was it.
One relatively minor thing.
Yeah.
Second line of the last paragraph, in 9, clear story is not spelled correctly. If we can. CLERE.
Learning new architectural phrases.
All right, anything else? All right, can I get a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
So moved.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, it's unanimous. Jump back to our agenda. Chairs, comments. Joe, did you want me to go through the schedule, or do you want to bring that up?
Why don't you
Okay.
do it? Go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. So we received updated schedule from Jacqueline. You guys received those for the schedules for the end of this year and next year, I believe. AJ, did you get those?
Oh, is that what the email was?
Yeah, you gotta open the email. Anyway.
That's what I'm missing.
Anyway, it's still the second Tuesday and, the second Monday and the fourth Tuesday, 5:30 to 7. Is there any comment, discussion about updating, changing the days of the week or times, so they still work for everybody? And I guess we can vote on this next meeting, Joe, but for discussion.
I sent Joe a list of all the dates going out to 2024. I think only 2 dates are impacted by town holidays.
That's fair, we can just can't amend those if necessary. But these days and times for everybody? Yes. I don't really know my schedule week to week.
So Jacqueline?
Yeah, correct. Oh, really? And she sent like meeting requests out.
So is the 28th, River 20 still on there?
I didn't go through yeah, so she sent a couple, one I think was to get us to the end of the year, and then there was one for 2024.
Okay,
It's like four, she said, the Mondays and the Tuesdays.
okay.
But if they still work for everybody, I guess we'll need to end it.
General.
Yeah, I know, things pop up next week.
Yeah, there's gonna be a couple that are.
But you should vote on it sooner rather than later because you
Yeah.
want to publish them with the town clerk. Otherwise, your January meetings are special meetings.
That's fine. That's what Joe had mentioned. We have to discuss today, the next meeting, we'll approving the schedule.
So that'll be for November, and that should be plenty of time.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, the
I
invoice
don't
packet and
I didn't see
agenda.
that, but then again,
I
You sent
didn't-
it?
No, I only sent it to Joe, but he's saying Jack sent it.
Jacqueline sent, they came from Jacqueline's email, the new
oh,
schedule.
all
for
the
next-
updated invitations.
Correct, all the invitations.
That's what these are.
I
Okay.
don't have any of them.
Interest.
There was
Will
four.
they go to your spam, maybe?
Well, let me look.
Again,
When I do searches, it searches everything.
huh. but
Yeah,
they
it
still-
just says updated invitation.
Maybe you already accepted it.
Probably.
Yeah, it just
It
changed
could have
the,
been.
Oh,
it
you
just
know what
changed the
she-
time.
Things go
And
fast
actually,
and
she
good.
added, you can now add the rooms to the Zoom. And she added them to the Zoom link and you may have gotten invitations.
Because I don't think originally our schedules were.
Let me see. Yeah, I don't have anything in my calendar for this meeting, starting in January.
Correct, but the invite she sent did have those on there.
I didn't get an invite either.
You didn't?
No.
I did. Did you get
Maybe
it?
maybe she knew you were gonna be the chair.
Let's see, Joan's on here, Ann's on here, Joe's on here,
What's the
Dave's
date?
on here.
When was it sent?
Yesterday at 10:30 a.m.
And I got 1, 2, 3, 4 of them.
Yeah, so did I.
Yeah, the only thing
Some of those
I got,
2,600 emails I haven't opened yet.
I got a whole bunch of updates with pictures on them.
Yes, I got several emails
Well,
from
you
pictures.
didn't get these from Jacqueline?
No.
Well, these are the ones that AJ and I were talking about, we got yesterday. They're new invites.
I got the email with the photo.
Yeah, I got all the photos.
Yeah.
Yep. Those two.
Those were from me.
Correct.
All right.
These were definitely from Jacqueline's email address.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll have to.
So it was yesterday?
And then-
Yesterday.
So Mike, let me look behind my.
I think it
They're
just,
not in my spam.
I think it just started because Zoom, she updated the Zoom invites.
Yeah, if you use Outlook or something, it might get rid of the emails and just change your calendar.
I was
Usually,
able-
you usually have to accept the changes.
No, you have to accept the changes.
Yeah.
Well, At least you get.
Let me go.
You guys are on,
I'm gonna go into.
your emails are on there, so.
Anyway, all right, we'll have to research that. So Joe, I guess we'll put it on the agenda for next time to vote on the schedule. All right, Joe, did you have any other chair comments?
No, I did not.
All right,
So
moving on to liaison reports. Al, do you have anything to report to us?
Very briefly,
Yeah.
at last night's Board of Selectmen meeting, I gave a progress report to the selectmen on the progress of this committee. And I used John's milestone schedule to document just how much the committee's been doing.
Mhm.
And I think it was received very well by the selectmen. I didn't get any questions, so they've been updated, I guess, to say they seem to be satisfied with the progress the committee's making.
Okay.
We get occasional comments from the public who walk by the building and say, why haven't we started yet? The building looks just the same. So this was an attempt to
Magic wand.
help them understand that there are many, many steps that take place before the shovels hit the ground.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. All right, public comment. Do we have any public comments? All right. You beat Austin to the punch.
Bill Stableford, if I, you guys were earlier mentioning geothermal energy. I can share a brief perspective with you from our experience at the Scranton Library. As some of you know, I'm on the Board of Trustees of the library and I'm chair of the Building and Grounds Committee. When this renovation was created, we installed a very sophisticated geothermal HVAC system and a very up-to-date photovoltaic system on the roof for electricity. If you go to the library and to the cafe, you'll see a video screen that shows how many kilowatts are being saved from generating or taking energy from a commercial enterprise versus the PV cells, and how many dollars are being saved by the geothermal system. What I think would be helpful for you guys to know is that we're about 4 years in now, and we're starting to see that in spite of the cost savings on the utilities, this very sophisticated system is requiring a good deal of maintenance that is expensive. We have to bring in specialists. It's also absorbing an enormous amount of time of the interim director, Tim Kellogg. And he's doing a magnificent job of staying on top of the maintenance and the repairs. So when you guys talk about, and Tom and John, a cost benefit analysis over time, I strongly encourage you to look at what potentially might happen down the road, because we're at the point where the dollar savings in utilities are starting to be equal, and they may be outdistanced by the cost of maintenance. So there's something to keep in mind, looking at advanced geothermal systems down the road. And if you guys would like to talk to Tim Kellogg, we could easily set that up. He really knows what he's doing in this department, and it may add some information and perspective to your decisions.
Okay, thanks, Bill.
What's the square footage of the library?
33,000.
It's the same order of magnitude that we're looking at.
Right.
So
The previous library was 17.
comparison, sorry, I didn't mean to.
That's okay. Prior to the renovation, the library was 17,000 square feet. Now it's 33. In terms of pure utility costs, for electricity and HVAC, those costs are less than what it was for 17,000. So the system really saves
Right.
money. But again, it's starting to break down, and the maintenance costs are becoming a problem. So something to think about.
Surprising, I was always under the impression that they had lower maintenance, that's helpful.
Austin?
I had a phone call today with Brian Park from Tom's office about septic and usage numbers. And good conversation, good information, learned a lot. They've come up with some use numbers and sizes, and there was septic engineers, I believe they were on the phone too, and doing test pits soon, possibly. Yeah, so, and I have a question too. So every year, the Rotary Club uses Academy Field for Carnival, and they're requesting it again for July, early July. Do we think that we can move forward with that, or should we find another location?
I think that would work, Tom. We talked about the schedule, timing would work to do it in the fall. I think that's what we potentially. I think,
Fall of 24,
Yeah, fall of 24.
breaking ground then.
Yeah. I think we were planning on trying to start after like fall, Little League season.
Perfect.
Go right at it.
And even if the construction project starts before that by some, let's call it miracle, the work could start in other areas. It doesn't have to start in the field. You carve that space out for the event.
Yeah, they're more on the other side of the field anyway. They do, like, they bring their campers and
Yeah, they
stuff.
park the campers.
Yeah, right. I'm like black the asphalt there. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Any other public comment? Nobody's on. All right, we review and approve e-waste packet. We received the packet. And Joe get a chance to review it. I think we had an additional comment
Yes, I have a question. QA&M invoice for the flow test. I believe we were under the impression that this is going to be a pass-through charge without any markup.
Maybe we can remove that cost. I mean, generally, we mark all of our costs up. I don't have our contract in front of me, so if this is something you would like us to remove from our invoicing, remove it from our invoicing. And you can remove from the invoicing, pay it without the markup, and or approve it without the markup, make payment, and we'll submit a record copy.
How would you all like to proceed? Joe Valentine, how would you like to proceed?
Sure, I heard the issue.
There's, on the QA&M invoice, there is an item for the flow test, and the actual contractor invoice was $1,500. It's a QA&M markup, and I believed that.
Still not, I'm still not able to hear.
So Joe,
Good.
when we had discussed doing the flow test and QA&M had subbed that out to, I think their MEP, what's that?
It's a color room.
Right, to a sub. Ann's mentioning that the discussion was that it was going to be a pass through the $1,500 and the invoice came through with markup on it. So the request is to have the markup removed from.
Tom, do you have any objection to that?
Not in this particular case. I mean, generally, our contract calls for 10% markup on reimbursables because we have to coordinate it and order it, do all the paper processing. But if, the town of Madison takes exception to it in this particular item, I can remove it. I will remove it. I would prefer if the committee would approve the invoice without the markup so that, the town can make payment in a reduced amount. And that would save me a month of getting paid to cover the cost of the
In the meantime, we'll go back and double check the
contract.
contract.
That's fair. So can we just cross out initial and update that now for payment?
Does the town allow for that to happen? Or do they need a clean invoice?
I believe the town allows for that to happen. That's, yeah.
As
That's,
long as he's gonna
as long
send a
as there's
record
a-
copy at the
there's a
end.
signature on it, and then you put it, you just note the dollar amount that needs to be paid. Didn't have check me to know that. My bad.
That was my only.
When I sign this, this receipt, I should mark it up. Is that what I've just heard?
Joe, I can just redo the cover page if you'd like and just.
Okay,
email you
better.
the, updated,
better. And Tom, I think we should also, if you agree to take, to take it off this, for this particular, that we don't use this as a precedent, that, we'll look at the contract and we'll look at, a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, that's acceptable.
I'm sure the contract does call for
Agreed.
markup. Yeah, this is not intended to be a precedent setting item. It was this specific item that we had made the request for.
It was also the, didn't we do the geotech do the same way as a pass through, Tom?
I don't.
I thought that was one of, there were two items that voted on. That I think we're gonna be passed through, Tom. Was that the geotech boring? It was like a test pit or something?
This was the only one I.
Yeah, but it may not
So
have been
we
invoiced.
You all need to go check.
Yeah, I think there were two things that we had voted on to add.
So. John, you're gonna fix the cover sheet.
yes, I'll amend this and send it to Joe tomorrow with the modified.
Notate on the invoice. So that this can move forward with processing. That was my only question, on the invoice packet. So I guess I can make a motion that we approve the invoice packet as amended.
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. That's the only invoice we
There was a second one for Colliers, but
Okay.
it was their standard monthly.
have. Okay.
So we're approving the package.
Packet.
The packet.
Together, okay, so we're good. All right. Review and approve budget line item transfers. Do we have any?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah, that's probably not gonna start happening until construction.
all right, guess we're moving on to the Colliers update.
Hopefully not.
Okay, don't have too much this evening. I did hand out the latest milestone schedule. This is the one actually that Al had referred to using last night. This one has everything from the beginning through to the proposed completion. So it's a little bit more inclusive than the prior ones that have been shared and distributed, but again, shows where we're at presently. We have coming up with respect to the DD phase. And the other item, which is actually under the new business, is regarding the RFP for the cost estimating process. But we'll talk about that later.
Okay. Questions, comments for
Just
John?
a quick pulse check, John. Your latest invoice shows a percentage complete of 25%. Does that feel roughly where we're at?
Yeah, I think with respect to the DD phase, I should say.
I'm assuming it's the entire project, right?
Yes,
We're
that's the
saying
entire project.
we've paid roughly 30% of the bill.
Right,
Are we about a third of the way through the project, or is there some like,
there's,
we should expect more work to be done on the back end than we're
Yes,
seeing on
there
the
will
front
be.
end sort of thing?
yes, there will be more work done at the back end. The way the contract is set up, it's a monthly invoice. So a lot more of that work, to be honest, will be done after the contract has been paid in full. So, there would not be additional invoicing from Colliers. However, the work effort would be extended a little bit beyond that. That makes sense.
And you're, in the end date is what? September of 25, is that
2025
5?
for the construction.
Typically, my experience is the pre-construction work can take as much as a year to get from design, concept, bidding, all estimating, all the pre-construction, and then about a year to do construction. So, the design, if you look at it from the perspective of the design phase is about 50% of the time, and then construction phase is another 50% of the time. You're about half of the design phase as completed. Design development usually reflects about 40% of the design phase, so you're not that far off. And we did get set back timeframe wise in terms of our progress because we were evaluating the cost estimates. So to me, it sounds like Collier's billing is in alignment with the time frame, but the scope is shifted a little bit because the schedule got stretched out.
Well, their workload's gonna be greater during construction than it is now too, so.
Yeah.
Yours may be more even.
Hopefully,
With some peaks.
hopefully. Nice and even.
Yeah.
No surprises.
Oh, boy.
All right, guess we'll move on to the QA&M update.
Great, thanks. We're proceeding with the design development work. As you heard from Austin, our team is reaching out and doing their investigative work that they need to do the more detailed design work for the systems. I have augmented the contracts with my sub-consultants to include the work for the the additional ad alternate work. So they're on board in their putting the design work together for all of that, as well as the base work. And we're just gonna continue to make progress, design wise, as we go through the design schedule and target the design development, turnover date. I don't know the schedule in front of me, but that date is just a refresher. John tells me I will be complete with the design development work, on December, just before Christmas, December 22nd.
So we had discussed having a meeting with the town to show progress, correct? At some point.
Yeah, public meeting.
Public meeting, correct.
Yeah.
So at what point would you be ready for that?
Well, I think it would be ideal to complete the design development phase, to reconcile the costs, and then present to the community.
So you're talking like early 24.
That's correct. So there are two schools of thought. One is we could do it before we're done with design development work and before any costs have been established or reconciled. And you can inform the public, hey, this is where we are, this is our proposed project. And when they ask what's it gonna cost, you can say, well, we're not there yet. Two, you can do it after the cost and scope has been reconciled and we have feedback and we're in alignment. I think that's a better approach because if the scope has to change to address the cost, that's a better time frame to do it. I think it's more transparent. Because usually when we make these presentations, the public wants to know what it also is going to cost. So I would say pursuant to the cost reconciliation process, which would be February, kind of February timeframe of 24.
I think that's a smart approach. I think the more information we have to give to the public, so that there isn't any kind of somebody taking one bit of information and throwing it against the wall and saying, this is what happened, I think if we have the information, we have the details, you've got two different estimators. And like you said, the cost reconciliation, I think that's the good timing. You're not going out to bid yet. We're talking to the public, we're saying, this is what we're looking at, just so you know. And this is how we got here.
From that point, the scope would be set. In theory. Now we can do two meetings, again, I take no exception to doing two meetings, so one here and one there. My experience though is that that doesn't always go so well, and then you, at the early meeting, you present a scope of work that you may not be able to deliver on. Once you identify what the cost is, so.
The other thing too, we haven't really made wholesale changes. Anyways. Really.
But there are things that the public's expecting that are missing out of this plan.
Well, and that can be part of the
So
discussion.
that's the discussion we need to, and that's why if it's not an add-on, then we need ballpark numbers. And then I also, I think, brought up to Joe and said, I remember the base Collier's estimate at the time was based on square footage for when we went out to referendum. If we can get updated numbers on what that looks like today versus what it was with the referendum, that gives us just the base to say, okay, we didn't change anything, we just went with this. This is what it would be, but we're in design and these are the things that we've changed and now we're here. So I think this is what people voted on, this is what it would cost just in ballpark, because I'm assuming that per square footage number has gone up fairly significantly. So, and we're saying, okay, because it went up, we're trying to scale what we're doing, and this is why we are at where we're at. I think it's a nice approach. It's a transparent approach. We're not trying to, you know, hide anything, because there will be conspiracy theories all over the place. So. Telling you right now.
I have two thoughts. I think Tom's experience is very helpful here. My first thought is, I think the selectmen would love to participate in making the decision about when to go to the public. Perhaps based upon a recommendation from this committee. My second reaction from having sat through many a public hearing is, if you want the committee, if you want the public to react to the design, just show them the design. If you want them to react to the cost, show them the cost. The cost will end up, unfortunately, my opinion, taking precedence over comments about the design. So I think it depends what the committee is trying to get feedback on at a given moment in time.
This makes sense.
Does make sense. However, if you get feedback on a design that you can't potentially afford, and then you have to value engineer that design, and a lot of stuff disappears, there is a challenge. So I'm just cautious to present the design unless we know that design is affordable, either via scope reduction or cost increase.
Right.
One way or the other,
We will know that by February,
I think so.
right? We're kind of extraordinary times now, right? I mean, inflation escalation has gone up. A lot of people have never seen.
You-
Yeah, I think we, I
Yeah.
think we said we were gonna delay the decision on going out until at least we had some preliminary numbers on the, from the design development. I don't, I think at this point, the, trying to make that decision, not knowing where the design development estimates are going to come in. You know, we tried to make that decision now, we could easily make the wrong decision.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, I wasn't really wanting to make a decision, so I want to kind of bring it up and get your thoughts on it.
Mhm.
And honestly, the more detail, the more information we have, the more we can give the public, the more that there's gonna be a better understanding.
Well, especially if we're within our budget.
Right.
So we're getting for our budget.
It feels like the right, there's still some decisions left to be made.
Oh, yeah, but that's, yeah,
We're not making all decisions and saying this is what you're getting. We're saying there are some trade-offs.
Right.
We know there's going to be trade-offs.
Right.
And that's when I think it's most valuable to get the public feedback is when we're trying to sort, rank these things and say which one's more important than this.
Right.
That feedback will help.
right.
There's also $4 million worth of grant money that's still pending, and you would likely know by February.
Right, and that will help because, you know, even if the cost of the project goes up, the cost to the taxpayers has gone down significantly, especially if you get that, it's half, basically. So they approved 6.9, they're only gonna, if that comes through, 15.9, if that comes through, they're only doing 7.9 in bonding. So that's, I think, a very big statement we say up front if it comes through. And even if it doesn't come through, we're still 4 million currently under that. So we're still below what we said we were gonna be bonding for. And I think that that's a critical piece of information for the public.
When we go to bonding, this is just curiosity, when we go to bonding, do the rates for the bonds get set? The current market is when we go out, or have they already been set this week?
Oh, no, it's when you go out for the bond, and then those, our director of finance keeps a real tight eye on it, and there's a lot of times that there's cost savings when we refinance bonds. We've done that several times in the past and saved ourselves quite a bit of money, so none of these bonds, I can't remember, Al, I don't know if you remember, I don't think any one of our bonds has ever gone from done to finish without some kind of redo in the middle, because we take advantage of our AAA bond rating, and we can grab some more.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because we're not gonna be in a great bond market, yes.
I also believe that if you're bonding a lot of money, communities tend to sometimes bundle everything together because you get a better rate when you're bonding a larger amount. Sometimes you have the bond issuance is broken up, like we're gonna take 10 million this year, 10 million the following fiscal year, 10 million. And I believe the rates are as established at the time of issuance. So your bond counsel, which is a cost to the project or internal, will choose to issue those bonds or make decisions to issue the bonds based on the variation of the rate, so.
Working with our director of finance and then the board of selectmen approves the timing, so,
That's right.
and the board of finance as well.
You're right. That's exactly what we do.
So it's kind of above all our pay grades.
Yeah.
But finance.
That's why we have
Let
a
the
market,
finance
so.
guys deal with it.
Right, any other questions for Tom? Joe, anything?
We have a couple of things down under the new business section. We could wait for those.
Okay, yeah, we'll move into new business then. Our new first item is the brownfield assessment update. Did we get an email this afternoon on that?
Yes, Karen sent out an email. 4 o'clock maybe, late afternoon. She received the executed purchase order. So that I think was also shared with you, Tom. I'm not sure if you've seen it yet or not, but this is finalized. She did apologize for the delay in getting that process and finished up, but the PO has been signed and issued, and Tom can begin that coordination work with us.
That's good news. So Tom will do the coordination.
Yeah, that's all to my best.
Any questions, Joe?
Nope.
Moving on, grant assistance update, Colliers. John, you're helping us with grants.
Well, Joe asked that I look into this, and I had a quick call this afternoon with our main individual down in the New Jersey office that deals with the grant services. Essentially, she said there's 3 steps, 3 stages to this. First being the research phase, which looks for applicable funding sources. They create a spreadsheet, detail summaries, things of that nature. The second stage is the application preparation, writing the grant itself, what is needed, managing that submission. Then the third stage of that is the actual management of the grant. They will act as a liaison, looking at the environmental review, the spec review, etc. So it is a service that Colliers can provide. I'm not sure if they've done that with the Madison school projects or not, but they do this with a lot of municipalities, and it is something that is an option and available if that's something that the committee wants to pursue.
I think we had discussed it, right, Joe, a little bit?
John.
Time here.
Yeah, John, the way you described it, is there a charge for this service in addition to your charge, or is this included with your, as a package with the, with your contract?
Your base scope of work, it would be additional charge for that, Joe. As I understand it, this is not something that was part of the initial proposal that was presented.
I did not understand that originally.
I mean, I'll follow up with Mark, because this was something I think he had brought up prior before my involvement on the project, but I think it is a separate service, but I'll double check on that and get back to you.
Yeah, the topic was definitely brought up before. I don't think there were details discussed about it. That's
Yeah, I don't know.
or how it was presented to the committee.
We work with a lot of communities.
And how do they work with the, well, maybe first I'll ask Al a question. Al, who handles this type of grant assistance for the town now?
John described 3 different activities around this. Obviously, our finance department manages the administration of the grant and makes sure that the right numbers are collected to report and that the reports are filed. In the past, Joe, the town has either used existing staff to write grants, or occasionally we have farmed it out on a short-term basis to an expert grant writer. I guess it's hard to answer your question without knowing what's involved in these particular grants. We know how to do government grants very well, but when we get to private foundations or other sorts of entities, that's probably far out of our expertise. Am I answering your question, Joe?
Yes, yes. Yes, John, I think the ball goes back in your court to get, I know we just talked about, we got very little information, you had very little time. But if you could get some more detail on this and use the information we got from Al that it's not government grants that we should have that down, but the private, if any, there contacts with it for private institutions that give grants for projects like ours would be important to us. And again, if you could talk to Mark Sklar on what was implied when we took you on and you did with the presentations you gave.
I believe the conversation was around when Mark had mentioned that's something that Colliers does. And I think, Mark agreed to look into it, and it was a few hours, it was okay. I don't remember them taking on that role of going through the whole process, sorting through the online lists or whatever. I don't know. Joe, do you remember something different?
I don't. Been a while. I can't say that we had much discussion on any detail. What I remember is that it was still held in generalities with no detail associated with it. So Mark or John, if you could just get together with Mark and see where this stands and give us a report on at our next meeting. Or actually not at our next meeting. As soon as you get a hold of Mark, let us know.
I'll send you an email. Yeah, I don't have to.
Yeah, I was almost giving you a pass there, John. I'm sorry. I apologize to the committee for saying that. Just give it to us as soon as you got it.
I will.
Joe, I'd like to also suggest the next time you meet with the first select woman, that this should be on the agenda. How does the town want to organize around grant writing if Colliers is not going to be doing it?
I mean, at this point, the research feels like the most valuable thing, like just knowing what's out there.
So
Right.
the town, I'm sure, knows what's available on the government side of grants, whether it's a small cities grant or it's pursuit of ARPA funding through the political process. There aren't gazillion grants federally that are available.
Okay.
The private grants, the research process can be tenuous. You have to dig it out.
Right. There's no centralized place.
It's not a typical service for, let's say, an owner's rep even to do the grant writing. It's usually a private grant writing company. And it can be, just writing one grant can be a huge exercise.
I think it was part of the original presentation from you guys. It was part of the original presentation from you guys. That was one of the services that could be provided.
That may be.
That was kind of the general,
what I
I think that's what we were kind of looking at, knowing that we have the other stuff done. So we'll see if we have a budget for it. It may pay for itself quite quickly.
It could, yeah.
And Joan, that does still leave private donors, people, citizens of Madison or the surrounding communities. That may be something that we can discuss, or maybe that is not part of this discussion. That would have to be addressed separately. Would that be correct?
Correct.
But at what point would we want to do that? It seems like we want to start looking into that sooner rather than later.
So we spoke about this, we kind of went back and forth in emails and texts. Ann and I were gonna meet with our director of finance, maybe we'll resurrect that and try to get down and get a conversation with bond counsel, because there's certain things that have to happen because there's bonds. So we have to do it in such a way that it may be donations in, but then there has to be fund at the same time, it has to be accepted and moved into certain accounts. So we just want to make sure that we do it right so that we can explain to the public, and then potentially even go out to the public and say, this is the way we could set up something in order for additional private funds to be added to the project, not so that they're not considered grants and bonds. So they're donations. So that's where we want to make sure legally we're on the right track, so to speak.
Budget enhancing versus
Budget. Right, exactly. That's what we wanted to make sure. And
but that we are in compliance with the
correct. We've got, and that's where I think we can try to do it. I can try to set up another meeting.
Because if there's a local organization that wants to contribute to something.
Right.
that we want to be entertaining.
Or do fundraising events, or, you know, and say, okay, here might be, you know, a nonprofit PAC that gets set up just for this. We're trying to fund certain pieces, you know, buy a stove, or, you know, outfit the
But even
kitchen,
like,
or the theater, or,
yeah, that's what I'm saying, even,
Right.
even like the gym, if the organization wanted to put money toward paying for basketball hoops or flooring or something.
Right.
That's right, that's what I'm saying, kitchen, right?
So,
I know that the time is short, but when, at the time till we get to the town meeting. But you know, great announcement at a town meeting is we've got a lead donor who's going to contribute whatever, $100,000 to the to this effort. And ask for people to do matching gifts. I mean, but having that in your pocket at the first town meeting would be a great a great way to deflect any real financial, any criticism, especially of the financial aspects.
How do we do, you know, there's certain concessions we made, like say, with theater, right? If somebody were to come in, organization, or whatever, want to contribute to that, can we just entertain that aspect?
that's where,
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
That's what we need
yeah,
to find
right.
out.
yeah. I mean, that's, I think, the two areas that lend themselves to fundraising, quite frankly, is outfitting the theater, so that by day, gym, by night, sometimes theater, sometimes gym, you know, type thing, right? Dual purpose, and then to meet the kitchen is another one. You know, and maybe somebody wants to buy a kiln for the art space, you know. I have no idea how much that equipment can cost, but I think it's something that we can, that's why I'm saying if we have ballpark figures, like Kitcherino is a potential add-on because we have more detail on that. I think no one really got into the theater stuff because I think most people were very surprised at how high it came up on the survey. That so many people were interested in having that space there. So, but I think since so many people are interested, we can say, here's some way that we can go to the community and set up something for donations. We just want to do it correctly, legally, so that we don't impact the bonds that are bringing the cost down. I want to make sure we've got all our ducks in a row. And I think the last email was still kind of fuzzy to me.
Yes.
We both agreed, and so we were going back and forth, so I think we just want to have, we'll
So
just
you and
request a
Ann will
meeting.
take care of this?
Yes,
Okay.
we'll get some details. So finance.
I like that. Good job. All right, any other discussion on that topic? All right, guess we'll move on to item 12, review and possible vote on approval of the cost estimating RFP for posting. Do we actually have an RFP drafted?
Yes, RFP was drafted and sent to, excuse me, Aaron and Joe last week for initial review. Aaron did not have a chance to look at it in detail, so it would not be something that we voted on tonight, just to let you know that. But the RFP is just one of our standard RFPs that we have. And we'll send out for this type of service. It's pretty straightforward. It goes to, and it gets posted by the town. And then anybody who is either tracking that, or at times we've also reached out to estimators to let them know, hey, this is out there if you're interested. There are a couple we typically use, and we would obviously let them know about this. And it's pretty straightforward. What they would be doing is providing a cost to submit an estimate for both the DD phase and the CD phase. So that estimate would be compared and contrasted with what that's from Tom's office. The same company that did the SD estimate would be doing the DD and CD estimates. Those would be compared and contrasted between the outside third-party estimator and QAM's estimator, and that sort of helps to reconcile those numbers and to get that number into a zone or range that is more applicable or realistic, if you will. Having two numbers to compare against graphs. So that's the point and the intent of that RFP.
For the
Here.
public's knowledge, DD, CD.
I'm sorry,
That's
DD design development, CD construction. But Erin, I think one comment she had was with respect to the insurance coverages, so she was just going to double check that. But outside of that, I don't think she was familiar with cost estimating RFP, so she was essentially deferring to us on that. But I think I don't know if there's anything else Tom you have to add to that. It's pretty straightforward. You're just looking to get a third party estimator to assist with the process during the design development and construction documents.
Does it get into detail like on reconciliation meetings or whatever is necessary?
Yes. Yep, so it references reconciliation meeting for both of those two stages as well.
Gotcha.
And for anybody who watches this in the public, you can actually sign up on the Madison Town website and receive copies of anything that's going out to RFP via email, just that I get them all the time. Kind of a nerd that way, but but you can see what the town is going out for RFP, and it gives the details and the timing and requirements and things like that. So there's a lot of information there for people who want to see it.
So we have to vote on this in 2 weeks.
Yes, I think the intent,
We need to get the RFP out. And then what's the solicitation period? Is it 2 weeks?
it was about 2 weeks, but I can look at, shrinking that up a little bit. It's
I know we're
pretty
on holidays.
straightforward.
That's
so-
what I'm saying. I think 2 weeks max, right? For-
Oh, max, yes.
Yeah,
I think
for
this is probably close to like 10 days.
The committee could vote to authorize Colliers working in conjunction with town staff to prepare the RFQ and issue it when it's ready upon the Madison, town Madison staff approval. You could do that as well.
You're full of good ideas.
I'm trying to make up that time.
He wants to get
No,
out.
I'm just saying.
Well, no, we're running
If you're
short.
reviewing, are you really going to review it technically? No, Erin is going to do that. You're gonna rely on her expertise, so you could do it that way if you want.
Now, is Erin going forward, the representative from the town to handle these things? Because typically that wasn't her role, right? She had assisted with the assessment because that's what she had.
I thought she was the purchasing agent.
I don't believe she is.
Purchasing agent usually.
She was-
does that.
She was just involved with the brownfield assessment, so that's why she was handling that. But I don't think that's her role, unless I'm wrong, Al, do you know?
Al, does Erin usually get involved in the RFP phase, or is that more,
Well, yeah,
Oh, she can?
Okay. where's a few hats there?
I don't know exactly how to define the parameters involved, but yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, I'll follow up with her.
Yeah, that's
Find out
fine.
if there is somebody else maybe that this should be
Okay.
going through, but ostensibly.
But the concept of the town staff who are experts in this area.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah,
The previous RFPs were reviewed and many times written by Bill McMahon. Last time I spoke to anybody about Bill McMahon, he's working at this primarily at the schools right now, and he's kind of phasing out that, headed for retirement, but I haven't spoken to him personally how true that is or what his current role is, but Bill was involved in all the previous RFPs. So Al, if you're gonna check, if check to see if Bill is still in that loop.
So Joe, do we want to make a motion to advance this, as Tom's suggestion, to let John and Aaron finalize it? Review it, send it out?
I think they have John in the town and a representative from the town to finalize it. If it's not Aaron, if it's somebody else, then that,
You're gonna make a
that,
motion. So I move that we approve the cost estimating RFP for posting upon approval between John and a representative of the town, and put forth that the Board of Selectmen should move on that. It's really the Board of Selectmen has to vote on it as well. Second that.
Right, all in favor?
Aye.
aye,
Right, unanimous. All right, guess we'll move on to item 13, Eversource coordination update from QAM.
So, yes, Eversource does have two different programs for utility incentives. They have a prescriptive program which will award certain sort of incentives based on system specific. So if you're putting new windows in your building, you can apply, depending on the type of windows and the energy savings, you can apply for a rebate for that scope of work, and they will give you X amount of dollars for that scope of work. They evaluate it and make a determination. They also have a building or system-wide incentive program. So you sort of lump all of the improvements together. You identify what the overall improvement or, improvement in the building's energy performance, energy model is going to be, and they have sort of an incentive that they award, usually based on square foot, and it's awarded somewhere between $1 and $3 a square foot in terms of utility incentive for the building. So we don't usually apply for that until we're into the construction document phase of the project. And we know what system is going to be utilized for the building. And we have all the specific details of that, as well as you have to do energy modeling. So we're a little early for that. We probably won't get into this until after the cost reconciliation process, and we know what the final systems are going to be, and then we will apply for those incentives. Those incentives can be applied for ahead of time. They can also be applied for retroactive. But once we know what the system's going to be, we'll put the application in place. Just in simple understandings, we're talking about a 50,000 square foot building. To get $3 a square foot, you're talking about a significant increase in building performance. There are some things about the building we don't control, like the envelope and the insulation. Windows we do control, and energy system we do control. So if I had to guess, I think the magnitude of incentives would probably be closer to $2 a square foot versus $3.
What would they consider the baseline?
That's what I was wondering.
Our
Our base is like 0.
So the building did have performance. It had a certain amount of, energy, insulation. It had a certain number of windows. You had dual pane windows. Those have been replaced. It had a boiler performance. So they'll establish a baseline as to how it performs, and then we will make an assessment as to how much above that the new building will perform.
So based on the last time it was up and running, so
Yeah, based on the
Okay.
system performance that
that
was previous.
Now, Tom, the reason I asked to put this on the agenda, they have twice now specifically, now the representative from Eversource specifically said that they prefer, or let's say prefer to get involved at the design development stage.
That's great. That is fine, Joe. If you contact me with the person you've been speaking with, I will connect with them. I will get them involved right now. The challenge with that is at the design development phase, we can identify systems, but we may not be able to afford those systems. So, please just connect me with the person you've been communicating with. I will reach out to them. I will get them involved. I don't take exception to working with them in the design development phase, but we are considering multiple options for the system. And while the incentives are great, Eversource would love to tell us, oh yes, put this system in and we'll give you $75,000 of incentive, but in most cases, that to earn the $75,000 of incentives, we may have to put in like geothermal plant. So, we may take on $600,000. So I think I will put me in contact with who you've been talking to and I will reach out to them.
And the other, and another reason to work with Eversource, and maybe not just for the energy efficiency, but for the service, any changes to the service for the building. Have you even begun to look at that? Because that is, we've spoken of this before, that's a very long lead time item.
So we're in the process of designing the system size for the building. Once we have that, then we can, we can talk about what the impact is. But short of the town ordering it ahead of time and paying, committing to pay for it ahead of time. I'm not quite sure what we need to do about that, but it's a problem every project is facing.
And it's usually a moving target. What's true today may not be true next week or next month. And it's it's something that has to be, but it is something that should be decided early. It's part of my old job. That was part of, I worked with many utilities, and this was an issue, the project's being delayed because you couldn't get the service installed in time. But I'll put you in touch. I'll put the person in touch with you. It is, I had her just a minute ago. But I'll get that to you and let her know that you would be willing to speak to her at this, even at an early stage.
Enough. All right, any other comments from anybody? All right, jump into item 14, initial plans regarding perimeter landscaping.
Yeah, this was, Jeannie, could you show some of the pictures that I have? The question I had, Tom, is I don't know if you've had a chance to look at landscaping yet, but there's significant amounts of landscaping around the south side of the building that doesn't look like that's going to stay there, once the building is completed. And if that is true, then I would propose that we put a request into the town to remove all that landscaping, all those plantings as soon as possible this fall. And when we do that, clean the gutters above that south end of the building, which were clogged when we first started this project, had to be cleaned, and there had been some pretty serious water intrusion into that part of the building. well, this is just a slightly different subject, the baseball fields, the windows facing the baseball fields have been covered over with plywood. And so that's been completed, that's what it looks like.
Right?
But then they decided to go on the other side.
Well, they play wall ball against the side of the basket.
That's the other side, street side there.
Oh, shit.
It's like,
The street side, yeah, I think if you go to the next one, Jeannie,
Oh, no, they're on the same, just toggle to the right, they're on the same.
on the bottom there.
Once you can see them.
and
While we're looking this, I'm gonna make a motion to open the agenda for 14A for a formal vote on the list that was reviewed in detail in the last meeting for what's in and then what's the official term? An add alternate, thank you. And all the add alternates.
so Jeannie, can you go to the next photo, the vertical window?
Second.
Joe, we're just gonna vote on adding the extra item for the add alternate approvals. So we had a motion and a second, all in favor?
That's just opening the agenda.
Correct.
I,
Right,
Aye,
DJ,
Okay.
good.
Say aye.
Okay,
Okay, do you know?
so now we have 14A.
well, no, now we have the agenda open. Now
Right. Now we can actually,
So.
no, I opened it up to add
oh,
Yeah. in one.
Yeah, so we have a 14A.
So we have a 14. Do you need help?
No.
No, I meant.
we're still talking about the,
Just making it formal.
You want to add?
okay. This,
Yeah, you want to do it before the public comments.
yeah, we can get this, I presume we can get through this pretty quickly. Is that, Joan, is that the point? We'll get
Yes.
through this, okay. If you look, again, if you look at the plantings, you can see they're up over the tops of higher than the buildings. They totally obscure the front of the buildings. This has been a place for mischief in the past also. And the request would be to remove all of this. This is one side. If you go to the next one, I think you get the other side.
Right.
It's just. It's pretty long.
Yeah, that's the front of the building. Again, the whole front of the building is obscured by the current plantings. And if one of those pictures is the other side, or maybe it's a duplicate, then the other side of the building is the same.
I don't have a landscape plan yet. We're kind of a ways away from that. However, I'm sure that my landscape architect would love to provide that all new. So if you want to take action and remove all of those plantings, I'm pretty confident that would be the directive anyway, so.
I don't know. What's the minimum size requirement of the tree ordinance? One thing we'd have to check.
It's not really trees.
There's a couple of them.
They're what I call weed trees. They started like this, and now they're.
What's the
Around my
benefit
house.
of doing that now? I'm not here for that.
Joe, what's the benefit of, Austin's asking what the benefit of doing it now is?
First of all, it stops any further leaves from getting and other brush from getting on the roof and clogging the vein, the drains. And secondly, it removes them now before we start doing construction in that area. Because we'll be doing windows and doors in that area. We have the time now to do it. We should just, so I'm proposing to do it while it's something that's not in the way of construction, but it's something that can be done now, and we finished long before this construction starts.
You're not advocating taking the trees down if the leaves are getting in the gutters, are you?
I'm advised, I am proposing to take everything out of that area, all the trees, all the bushes, all the plantings in that area, including grinding the tree stumps out too.
Yeah, I think our timing might be a little off with how late it is.
We might have
to
a
go.
further discussion.
Yeah, this
Yes.
might want to
I don't
be,
agree with that at all. That is the front of Route 1 right there. And to have that bare, it'll look horrible for a year and a half.
I agree with that. I think that's something you want to get Board of Selectmen involved in because you're likely
Maybe
to get
doing
a lot of blowback from the public if you clear cut anything away from that building. If there was maybe, you knew for sure was dumping leaves or a problem like that, maybe it's not an issue. But if you clear cut all the vegetation in front of that building, people will not like that.
I think that's why we're starting it now, because as you said, we probably need to get some additional approvals. You're certainly not going to do it on my recommendation or even on the committee's recommendation. But all that has to be will have to be removed, and removing it now before before we start construction in that area is while we have something we can do now, that when we have the time and not when it impedes the construction schedule. And if it means getting the selectmen to look at it, I'm fine with that too.
but the other thing too is if you've got a construction company that has the backhoes to, if they're there anyway with the construction equipment, it may be actually easier for them to just do that at the time than it is to have town staff come in and do it.
Yeah,
We don't even know which trees we would
Right, we don't
potentially
even
take
know.
down.
that.
They
So
may
I
stay there.
think this is a discussion that may need, I don't think it's,
The larger trees that are out in front may not go.
or get repurposed somewhere.
We can't say that. Now. We don't know.
I'm not very tell you one way or the other.
I mean, general cleanup around the staircase maybe is one thing, but clear cutting the area.
and that's been done, that was done actually 5 years ago, volunteers during cleanup day, we weeded and we trimmed a bunch of things back, and it was, it really did help, so maybe we target that for next spring's cleanup day and say, anybody who wants to help trim down things at Academy prior to construction, so that, or even, special one, but that was, I had before and after pictures. Because we spent a couple of weekends, actually, a bunch of stuff.
I appreciate getting volunteers to do it. I appreciate we can do it later, but I see no reason to put it off. If we know that all those plantings are going to have to be taken out and replaced, and we have the time and the ability now to do it, instead of having a contractor do it, we could ask, if we request it from the town might have crews available to do that in the fall. And that's something we can explore. But I think the more we delay, the more we will have to do under the time of construction. That can be done now and be ready for the construction when the construction time comes.
Well, I mean,
I don't think it's gonna be that much time for
the site contractors do all that while they're there. They're gonna build it to take out.
I had a backhoe do a similar amount of work in about 45 minutes.
I thought you said you had a backhoe. You were willing to
Yeah,
do it
I'll just bring it over.
But yeah, hey, get them to do it another 45 minutes. I'll pay for 45 minutes worth of their work.
Well, if I could add, I'm on a roll at 2, this will be 3.
Yeah, let's hear it.
This is not a critical path item.
I can tell you that.
I don't think that's a bad idea. Perhaps a little exploration with the first selectman, or the liaison can make a request, talk about it, and then at the next meeting, it can be back on the agenda. 2 weeks won't really throw this off one way or the other.
Well, I put Tom to learn with this. Let's just keep the meeting moving.
Yeah.
This is an informal recommendation. I'll take it to town officials.
See what kind of time.
Joe, did you say the gutters are clogged currently, or that they were and they've been cleaned?
They were clogged last spring And they had, I believe it was last spring, it might have been, it must have been last spring. And they needed to be cleaned. And it was because of water incursion, water pools in that roof. And then it leaks down through through whatever holes are available and gets into the. So that is that would be a critical item for, to preserve the envelope. Cutting down all the trees is not on the critical path, I agree, but let's not put it on the critical path and have to get it done, on the critical path schedule.
If there is an issue with the gutters.
Yeah.
It's an issue.
But I think that we've come to the right conclusion that it goes to our liaison and the liaison takes it to whatever the town resources are, takes a look at the town resources and comes back to us and says, we can do it, we can't do it, we don't want to do it. So I think that's a reasonable way to go.
Town liaison has an action item.
I was gonna say,
Next meeting, he's gonna report on it.
You know, it's gonna fall back on me.
Austin's got this look on his face and I'm like.
It'll fall on me and I'll do it without, I'm serving your
We'll
pleasure.
talk offline.
But I think it's a bad idea, a year and a half to have it's gonna look like hell for a year and a half. And it doesn't look like hell now.
I know what happens when you open it up, all these other things start rolling in there.
Yeah, it's the new sheets.
More water?
More water.
We're almost.
You're done speaking anyway. No more ideas for you.
Free. Here's your quote.
So I'm gonna move on 14A to approve prior, for the last meeting, the prior discussions for design and the ad alternate items. Correct way to say it?
Should we reference the meeting that we?
The last meeting. was
September.
September 26th,
26th.
September 26th meeting.
Right.
Second.
All right. We have any discussion? We're all good?
Good.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, it's
Aye.
unanimous.
Oh, I thought we were going through the list again. I was a little nervous.
All right, item 15, public comment. Is there any other public comment from what we've heard?
We have public?
There's one person on, they have not raised their hand.
All right.
Thank you for being here, public.
All right, and then what's the same I'm supposed to make, Jim, to end the meeting?
Yeah, hearing no objections, we are adjourned.
Yeah, hearing no objections, we are adjourned. Hit the gavel.